Alright, so today we're going to be putting the clutch in the G35. It's been kind of rough since I bought it a couple weeks ago. Well, about 3 weeks ago. It's just about time. Haven't really even been able to drive it. It's just been too rough. It feels like the clutch wasn't even really doing anything. But I got a Z1 clutch from Z1 Motorsports. It's considered the mild performance. A lot of people say to get the 6 clutch, but I figured this probably do the trick. If I want something bigger, I can always upgrade. Rear main seal came with it. This is the pressure plate here. Let's see if I can get this out. Yeah, so there's the pressure plate, rear main seal, and the clutch. Alright, let's get to it. So the first thing you want to do is disconnect the battery, which I haven't done yet, and put your car on jack stands or ramps. I'm doing a little bit of everything here. I've got the jack under the differential in the back, 6x6 post right there, jack stands, 2 ramps up here and 2 jack stands right there. So let's get started. Alright, so the first step is getting all this stuff off. The way I did that was I just took a flathead screwdriver and just worked it out around here until it came out. It's almost easier to put it in like 6th or 4th or reverse, but you've got a couple connections here. This is just a light bulb, you can leave that in. It actually just rotates in there. There we go. You've got a connection. If it's sitting in there like this, you know, the right way, you've got a connection right here, and you've got one right down here. But yes, you took those out. I've already got these bolts. You've got 4 10mm bolts on each corner, here, here, down here, and right here. That just takes that plate off. I've kind of skipped steps, but what you want to do is pull this little rubber boot down and expose this little metal shaft. I don't know if you can see this little black piece right here. That's going to spin if you try and spin this off. So you want to hold that with maybe some vice grips or something and be able to spin this. And it's thread locked from the factory, so it's pretty tough getting off there. As you can see, mine's had, you know, somebody's done this before. But yeah, hold this with vice grips right here and maybe get channel locks, or if you're strong enough, use your hand right there. Alright, so when you get all that taken off, those rubber boots and the piece, that's kind of what it looks like. Like I said, you bolt here, one over here, one down there, and one right there. That takes that little metal plate off. I don't know if you can see it right up under that rubber boot there. That takes that off, and the rest just pulls up straight off this shaft. Alright, so next thing I'm going to do, which if you haven't done it already, is I'm going to drain the transmission fluid out of here. You drain it from this little bolt right there, little nut right there. It's actually a 10mm Allen wrench. So yeah, just get that on there and get it drained. Get it in there. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Broken loose. Alright. Now that I got that drained, next step is to take this brace off. It goes from your exhaust, one side of your exhaust to the other. And if I remember right, they are 14mm bolts. You got one right there, and then 2 here and here. All are 14mm bolts. So yeah, take those out. Alright, so I got that brace off. It goes across there. I got these two plugs that were on this little bracket unplugged. There's that one that's hanging down here. And you got this one here. Next thing you want to do is take this part of the exhaust off. It's gonna be 14mm bolts, nuts, 2 on the right side. 2 on the passenger side, 2 on the driver's side. You're gonna have 2 more right here, but I've already got the exhaust off. So yeah, let's get that off. All right, after you get that piece of exhaust out, I just put these nuts back in there so they're you know where they go and you don't lose them. But yeah, like I said before, those are 14mm nuts. As you see here, I've got some rust on mine. Yours may have some rust too. I just use like it's called Freol. It's like a spray, like a WD-40 type spray. It works really well. I didn't have to use it on this, but if you do have to use it, Freol is the brand that I recommend. Comes in a little chrome colored can. Okay, the next thing you want to do is you want to get these connectors off, disconnected back here. There's one right there on the top right of the transmission, and one right here. I don't know if you can see it. You can see where this cord goes past that big nut right there on the top. If you take a long flathead, you should be able to get this one off. It's going to take some, it's going to take some time though. So let's get that one off. All right, guys. So I got that one up there unplugged. That one was unplugged. So that's these two here. This one and that one there. And you come around, you get them all from these little tabs that hold them in. These little, not sure if you can see, these little zip tie type things. They're just clipped into the sides. A couple right here on the back of the transmission. You go up around here, and you got a plug right here that's, if you can see, you got the 14. It's a 14mm. It's kind of backed out. I left it in there to show you. It's just directly behind the starter. Yeah, that's plugged in there. So you unplug that, or just take the bolt out. You really ain't gotta. You can unplug it, but then you gotta take the bolt out so the wires don't get in the way. You got a couple more of these up here. I'm not sure. Hold on, let me see. Yeah, I got one still hooked up there, but I wanted to show you this. This plug right here is held in by a 10mm bolt on the front side, so you got to take that out, and all those clips, and then your wires will be basically hanging all to the passenger side of the car, as you can see. Okay, so I got all the wires pulled out. Next step, directly under the shifter, I got this drive shaft pulled out. This first little one, because it's actually a 2-piece drive shaft, goes through this little vibration type of holder type thing. I'm not sure what that's for, but 17mm on both sides, 4 of those. So that just pulls right out. Next step is to start taking these 14mm bolts around the transmission out. I believe there's some 17s on top over here on this side. So yeah. Okay, so I got the transmission pulled out. Kind of dark up under here right now. It's kind of heavier towards the rear of the transmission. So if you're using a jack like I am, like on the floor, I just use the regular floor jack. I put it about right here. It took a while to get pulled out of there. My clutch is in terrible shape. You can see, I don't know if you can see all that dust right there. Piece of the clutch, but I wanted to show you. Got this from another guy on YouTube. These are all the bolts that you're going to be pulling out of there. This here is a 10mm. I kind of just put a circle and labeled them all. I'm missing one. It's just laying down there somewhere, but you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 17s, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 14s. So 9 bolts in total, and it'll come right out. And your next step is to, if it's kind of dirty, like mine is, here, let's get a flashlight for you if you can see it. Crawl up under here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Oh. I don't know if you can see all this crud and whatnot laying around. Yeah, let's get my other light here. All that black soot looking mess in there. Yeah, you want to clean that up. I've already taken the pilot bearing out, which is here, I'll show you real quick. This is the old one here. You can tell it's old because if you do the little spin, you can kind of feel it, or you'll be able to hear it if you get real close. I just took a big socket and just banged it out on this vise here. But yeah, that's what you want to do after you get the transmission out, is take that pilot bearing out. And there's my new bearing here. Or throw out bearing, not pilot bearing, sorry. But yeah, you want to put that new one in there. But to get that out, it's on there about like this, sitting on top. You just pull this out and yeah, it just comes right out, and you'll be able to pull it out so you can work on it, you know, outside of the car. So yeah, we're gonna get that transmission all cleaned up and new bearing in there, and my new clutch from Z1 Motorsports. As you can see, the old one is in pretty bad shape. That's the old one there. New one here. I don't know if you can tell, but they're in pretty bad shape. Little rivets. Grooves are almost gone. This new one looks really good. Old pressure plate, new pressure plate. So yeah, get that transmission cleaned up. Alright guys, so one thing I wanted to tell you to make sure that you do is, you see I'm holding the, it's flat on this side here. You always want to put that raised hub towards the pressure plate, which would be towards the rear of the car. So you want to put it in just like that. Make sure you got your clutch alignment tool in there. Alright, so we're going to put the pressure plate on now. Okay, so I got the new bearing in there, clipped back on there, ready to go back in the transmission. Just a little bit of advice. This whole piece comes out of that middle little ring right there. That's one piece. So that this little middle ring, that's one piece, and you got to bang it out. Or if you have a drill press, that'd be easier. What we did is we just hit it out with this socket. Make sure you got a socket that's big enough to hit on that ring right there, but small enough to fit. I don't know if you can see it. Small enough to go inside that middle ring right there, that one in the middle there. This one here, that's 1.25 inches. We used a 28mm socket. I don't know where it went now. It's laying around here somewhere. But yeah, that fits perfectly in there. But yeah, we banged that out, got it out, then actually put this part in the freezer, and then you know, let it get nice and cold. Went and had supper, then came back and put this with a heat gun there. And so you heat that up, it expands, freeze that, makes that cold, and it contracts or gets smaller, and it kind of presses in there. You know, and still to do a little bit of banging around, and be careful, you know, not to put it on a hard surface. Probably not the best way to do this, but it worked for me, and it's worked for me several times. Put on this rug here, you know, nice carpet, or like, you know, this little spongy rug here. It seemed to work pretty good. So we're gonna put that, put it back in the transmission. All right, so when you're putting this bearing back in, you can see the clip there. You got one side. Let me try and get this light where you can see it. This part right here, as you can see that the clip, when it was on the bearing, stays on. You just push it on this little shaft here. And these clips, you actually go back and around and into these little, I don't know if you can see that, those little slots back there. You go into a little slot both sides. So yeah, there's that little clip both sides. You actually pull them and go back around the other side, so back around this way, and they get this little slot right here. A good way to check is to go like that, and if that clip goes with it both sides, then you know you've got it in there right. So now we got the clutch on there, and we're gonna put the pressure plate on. Oh, one thing I forgot to tell you, these are 12 millimeter bolts around here to take the pressure plate off. Keep those bolts because the new clutch kit, the new clutch and pressure plate may not come with them, so just keep those. But yeah, we're gonna put that back on. I'll tell you the torque specs and everything for that. All right, guys, so new pressure plate's in. I've got the bolts all hand tightened. What you want to do is kind of get them all like hand tightened or so, and maybe put a wrench on there and just kind of barely snug them up. What you want to do is torque these bolts to about 29 foot-pounds. So get you a torque wrench and put all these to 29 foot-pounds. And remember, when you're doing it, go to star pattern. So you might want to start up here, come down here, go over there, there, you know, kind of just do a star, just like that. So let's get to it. Okay, guys, so I wanted to go over the torque specs for the bell housing with you. Okay, if you're looking from the back of the vehicle towards the front, so you've got this 14 millimeter here. Well, above that there's a 17. Starting from there and going across the top, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bolts, and stopping right above the starter bolts. So it's above those 2 starter bolts. Above that one, there's one going towards the rear. Those, you torque all of those to 75 foot-pounds, and these 2 on the bottom, you want to torque those to 46 foot-pounds. Those 2 14s heading pointing towards the rear of the vehicle, torque those to 46. So start from right there, that 17, about where the exhaust is. Start there, go around the top, and stop at that one above that 14 millimeter top starter bolt. Those will all be 75 foot-pounds, and these 2 on the bottom will be 46 foot-pounds. So let's torque those real quick. All right, so I've got the bell housing torqued. I started putting everything back together, so I'll just run over that. Don't forget to put your feed line back into your slave cylinder. Those 2 clips right there. Green goes with gray, and blue goes with black. Yeah, don't forget that. You've got, let's see, you got some plugs over here. One that plugs in on top of there's a little bracket right there on top of the starter. Right there. There's a plug there. Let's see. It's got a plug. Let's follow it down. You got one going in right here. That's above this back brace, so one right there. And you got those clips. They clip in right here and comes around there. And clips in just on the other side of that big nut there. Drive shafts back in. Torque those drive shaft bolts to 55. Put your exhaust back in, and like I said at the beginning of the video, mine's missing. I took that off. See if there's anything I'm forgetting. I think that's about it. All this brace here goes from exhaust to exhaust. Those are 14mm bolts. I torqued these to about 45 going into the bell housing here. Don't forget you got 2 plugs up top, which I'll show you those. I disconnect them just to have a little bit more room. You don't have to disconnect them though. This one right here, and you've got a green one right there. So that green one, I don't know if you can see, there's a green one right there going towards the front of the car, and that gray one right there. And don't forget to bleed your slave cylinder, which I need to add a little bit more. But yeah, don't forget to bleed that. And yeah, you're good to go. Thanks for watching.